Today's video is all about the conventions of foil fencing, as written in the official USA Fencing 2018-19 rulebook, updated August 2018. This video assumes you already have an understanding of the rules for judging and uniform. For additional information on these subjects and other subjects related to fencing, please check out our other videos. Part 2. Foil. The conventions of fencing. Method of making a touch. The foil is a thrusting weapon only. Offensive actions with this weapon are made therefore with the point and with the point only. Pushing or letting drag the point of the electric weapon on the electric strip is forbidden during the actual bout. Placing the point of the weapon on the strip at any time to straighten it is also forbidden and will invoke punishment. The limitation of the target. In foil, only touches which arrive on the target are counted as valid. The target in foil excludes the limbs and the head. It is confined to the trunk, the upper limit being the collar up to 6 centimeters above the prominence of the collarbones, at the sides to the seams of the sleeves, which should cross the head of the humerus, and the lower limit following a horizontal line across the back, joining the tops of the hip bones. Then by straight lines to the junction of the lines of the groin. It also includes the part of the bib, beneath a horizontal line 1.5 to 2 centimeters below the chin, which in any case may not be lower than the line of the shoulders. Touches off the target. A touch which is made on a part of the body other than the target, whether directly or as a result of a parry, is not counted as a valid touch, but it stops the phrase and therefore annuls all touches which are scored thereafter. Exclusion of the valid target. In foil, it is forbidden to protect the target area or to substitute another part of the body for the target area by covering it. Any touch scored by the fencer at fault is annulled. Part A. If during the fencing phrase there is protection or substitution of a valid surface, the fencer at fault will be penalized as specified for offenses of the first group. Part B. If during the fencing phrase, as a result of protection or substitution of a valid surface, a touch correctly given is registered as not valid, the fencer at fault will be penalized as specified for offenses of the first group, and the touch will be awarded by the referee. Part C. However, touches which arrive off the target are counted as valid whenever by reason of an abnormal position, the fencer has substituted this non-valid target for the valid target. The referee may question the judges about this, but he alone must decide whether the touch is valid or not. Annulment of a touch. The referee must, on the other hand, take into account any possible failure of the electronic equipment, and in particular must consider the following. He must annul a touch which he has just awarded as a result of a touch signaled as on the valid target, indicated by a colored lamp, if he establishes, by tests made under his personal supervision, before the bout has effectively recommenced, and without any of the equipment in use having been changed. Consider these points. Either that a touch registered as valid against the competitor against whom the touch has been awarded can be made without there being in fact a valid touch, or that a non-valid touch made by the fencer against whom the touch was awarded is not registered by the apparatus, or that a valid touch made by the fencer against whom the touch was awarded does not cause any touch either valid or non-valid to be registered, or that the registration of touches made by the competitor against whom the touch was awarded does not remain recorded by the apparatus. On the other hand, when the referee has decided that a touch made by a competitor has priority, this touch shall not be annulled. If subsequently it is found that a valid touch made by the opponent is registered as non-valid, or that the weapon of the fencer against whom the touch was awarded is permanently registering a non-valid touch. Priority of the touch. The referee alone decides as to the validity or the priority of the touch by applying the following rules, which are the conventions applicable to foil fencing. This begins with the fencing phrase. Part 1. Every attack, that is, every initial offensive action which is correctly executed, must be parried or completely avoided, and the phrase must be followed through, that is to say, coordinated. Part 2. In order to judge the correctness of an attack, the following points must be considered. 1. The simple attack, direct or indirect, is correctly executed when the extending of the arm, the point threatening the valid target, precedes the initiation of the lunge or the flesh. 2. The compound attack is correctly executed when the arm is extending in the presentation of the first fent, with the point threatening the valid target, and the arm is not bent between the successive actions of the attack and the initiation of the lunge or the flesh. 3. The attack with the advanced lunge or an advanced flesh is correctly executed when the extending of the arm precedes the end of the advance and the initiation of the lunge or the flesh. And 4. Actions, simple or compound, steps or fence, which are executed with a bent arm, are not considered as attacks, but as preparations, laying themselves open to the initiation of the offensive or defensive offensive actions of the opponent. To judge the priority of an attack when analyzing the fencing phrase, it should be noted that, first, if the attack is initiated when the opponent is not in a point-in-line position, it may be executed either with a direct thrust, or by a disengage, or by a cutover, or may even be preceded by a beat or successful fent, obliging the opponent to parry. And, if the attack is initiated when the opponent is in the point-in-line position, the attacker must first deflect the opponent's blade. Referees must ensure that a mere grazing of the blade is not considered as sufficient to deflect the opponent's blade. If the attacker, when attempting to deflect the opponent's blade, fails to find it, the right of attack passes to the opponent. And finally, continuous steps forward with the lunge crossing one another constitute a preparation, and on this preparation, any simple attack has priority. Attacks by beat on the blade. In an attack by beating on the blade, this attack is correctly carried out and retains its priority when the beat is made on the foible of the opponent's blade, the 2/3 of the blade furthest from the guard. In an attack by beating on the blade when the beat is made on the forte of the opponent's blade, i.e. the 1/3 of the blade nearest the guard, the attack is badly executed and the beat gives the opponent the right to an immediate riposte. The parry gives the right to riposte. The simple riposte may be direct or indirect, but to annul any subsequent action by the attacker, it must be executed immediately, without indecision or delay. When a compound attack is made, if the opponent finds the blade during one of the fence, he has the right to riposte. When compound attacks are made, the opponent has the right to stop hit. But to be valid, the stop hit must precede the conclusion of the attack by an interval of fencing time. That is to say, that the stop hit must arrive before the attacker has begun the final movement of the attack. Judging of touches. The referee should apply the following basic conventions of foil fencing. Number 1. When during a phrase both fencers touch at the same time, there is either a simultaneous action or a double action. Number 2. The simultaneous action is due to simultaneous conception and execution of an attack by both fencers. In this case, the touches exchanged are annulled for both fencers, even if one of them has been touched off the target. Number 3. The double touch, on the other hand, is the result of a faulty action on the part of one of the fencers. Therefore, when there is not a period of fencing time between the touches, the only fencer who is attacked is counted as touched. Therefore, when there is not a period of fencing time between the touches, only the fencer who is attacked is counted as touched, according to the following conventions. A. If he makes a stop hit on his opponent's simple attack. B. If instead of parrying, he attempts to avoid the touch and does not succeed in so doing. C. If after making a successful parry, he makes a momentary pause which gives his opponent the right to renew the attack, redoublement, remise, or reprise. D. If during a compound attack he makes a stop hit without being in time. And E. If, having his point in line and being subjected to a beat or a taking of the blade, a prise de feu, which deflects the blade, he attacks or places his point in line again instead of parrying a direct attack made by his opponent. Part 5. Only the fencer who attacks is counted as touched by the following conventions. A. If he initiates his attack when his opponent has his point in line, without deflecting the opponent's weapon. Referees must ensure that the mere grazing of the blade is not considered as sufficient to deflect the opponent's blade. B. If he attempts to find the blade, does not succeed, and continues the attack. C. If during the compound attack his opponent finds the blade, but he continues the attack and his opponent riposts immediately. D. If during a compound attack he makes a momentary pause during which time the opponent makes a stop hit, after which the attacker continues his attack. E. If during a compound attack he is stop hit in time before he begins his final movement. F. If he makes a touch by a remise, redoublement, or reprise, when his original attack has been parried and his opponent has made a riposte, which is immediate, simple, and executed in one period of fencing time, without withdrawing the arm. Part 6. The referee must replace the competitors on guard each time that there is a double touch and he is unable to determine clearly on which side the fault lies. This concludes the conventions of foil fencing. I hope you enjoyed. Please leave a like and subscribe, and watch out for our future videos covering epee and saber.